So welcome back to Brands Hatch. We can now turn our attentions to the first of our Quaife Radical Club Cup races. Chris Hillaby missing from pole position following problems on the warm-up lap. So Darren Luke sits there on his own on the front row of the grid. A good start from the blue car on the second row, that being Steve Burgess, the man from Nottingham. Colin Miller, the reigning champion in that red car, sitting there in third place. They head up towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time in what is once more a very, very full field of cars. We ride on board with Darren Anley. It's been a good start from him. He started sixth on the grid. He's made a couple of places up already by the look of things and has managed to get himself ahead of Craig Curry. Round through Druids for the first time. They all go, all treading very, very carefully so as to not trip over each other. And already Darren Luke starting to sprint away in the lead of this race. There is Steve Burgess in second place. Car number 2, the man from Nottingham, became a father earlier on this year. With Colin Miller, the man from Ballymena in Northern Ireland, sitting there in third place. Up towards Clearways and on towards Clark Curve for the completion of the first lap. They all feed their way. Good progress also being made through the field for that black car with a gold stripe down the centre. That is Mark Abbott. Through and over the start-finish line he goes. He's got the number 27 car, which is Ray Woolhead, the 43-year-old from Holmfirth, in his first season of racing, right with him. And the battle is certainly on for second position as Colin Miller tries to get up the inside of Steve Burgess. Barges his way through there, does Colin Miller. There wasn't a great deal of gap for him to propel the car. Off goes Paul Marsham into the gravel trap for him, having rotated through 180 degrees. And car number 39 is a long way into the gravel trap. The marshal's on hand. Paul Marsham about to dive out of the cars. We ride on board with Darren Anley. He's trying to get himself up the inside of Steve Burgess as well. Through he goes. So another position lost for Steve Burgess there. Darren Anley allows him back through once more. So I'm not sure whether that was under the waved yellows for where Paul Marsham's car had come to rest. In fact, the safety guard coming out as a result of that as well. So perhaps Darren Anley not seeing those yellow flags, gaining the place and allowing Steve Burgess back through. Paul Marsham pushed back onto the circuit. He will head around the track and into retirement. And the safety car will then very shortly make its way back into the pit lane area. And we're about to go racing once more with Darren Luke, Colin Miller, Steve Burgess and Darren Anley being the top 4. Darren Anley gets a very good restart, that yellow car in 4th place. We ride on board with Darren Anley. Tries to have a quick look at the inside of the man from Nottingham, Steve Burgess, in that light blue SR3 ahead of us. Of course, the cars split into separate classes as well, with Darren Luke leading the race in the Pro Sport class. Those are the 1000cc, 1300cc Suzuki engine machines, producing around about 200 brake horsepower. The battle between these cars here, Colin Miller, the red car with the silver flashes, Steve Burgess and Darren Anley, they're all in the Super Sports class. Again, it's the Suzuki engine, but either the 1300 or the 1500cc engine, and a bit more power as well, somewhere between 250 and 260 brake horsepower for those. Onto the straight they come, with all of this fighting behind, allowing our race leader Darren Luke to pull away all of the time. There goes Rachel Davis, the red machine, with diving up the inside goes Nigel Place. Nigel Place gaining a place as they head down through the dip and climb Halewood Hill once more. There's Colin Miller in second place, Steve Burgess and Darren Anley queuing up behind. Then Nigel Place, who certainly hasn't floundered in this one, with Rachel Davis and Mark Abbott. We said watch out for that progress of Mark Abbott. He qualified down in 16th position. That's the black car with the gold stripe down the centre, and now he's applying pressure to the 20-year-old from Evesham, Rachel Davis. Just heading through shot there. Some of the club class competitors. I think we also have the invitation class leader sitting through shots there as well, and that is number 11, one of the Kawasaki engine club sport cars, the original Radicals, in the hands of Ian Charles. Over the start finish line with Steve Burgess trying to re-attack Colin Miller. Colin Miller, who was up there in second place, is now down into third position. Darren Anley we ride on board with, and Colin Miller going to lose another position as well. So all of a sudden Miller loses 2 places in the space of, well, not even 2 corners. Over the start-finish line goes Darren Luke, well and truly amongst the back marker lappery now. The red car with the day-glow flashes was David Franklin. He's just put a lap on. There is our third-place car, which is Darren Anley. As we look once more at race leader, Darren Luke, just heading through shot there. The number 7 car, new car for him this season. Right on board once more with Darren Anley, the 39-year-old director, former Palmy Audi racer from a few seasons ago. We're just passing number 53. That's Tim Porter in the invitation class. He currently lies second in the invitation class. That class being led by the man from Tenby in Wales at the moment. There's a spin ahead for Simon Garston. Darren Hanley has to take to the grass. There was contact there just ahead of Darren Hanley. Simon Garston is sitting on the outside of the circuit. Here's our race leader, Darren Luke, the 38-year-old from Droitwich. There's Steve Burgess in second position, with Darren Hanley having to take that deep breath briefly there in third place. Here's a fight further down through the order. The orange car of Tim Porter fighting away with the likes of David Franklin, and I think Richard Stables is also in the mix there as well, the hotelier from Ross. So are busy beavering away. They've also got the quicker cars putting a lap on them at the same time as well. So it's a very, very busy Brands Hatch Indy circuit here. There is car number 95, the hotelier from Ross, as Darren Luke has certainly been caught all of a sudden by Steve Burgess. Darren Luke leading the championship coming into this weekend. He's claimed 10 overall race victories, 14 class victories, and is now being pressurised by Steve Burgess ahead. We ride on board with Darren Hanley, still in third position, still trying to manage his way past the back markers. That's Simon Garston, car number 13, that we've just been able to go through and pass the car that spun a little bit earlier on in the race. But Darren Luke heading out of Clark Curve towards the start-finish line. Darren Luke is going to claim the honours in the first of our Quaife Radical Club Cup races, with Steve Burgess in second. Darren Hanley in the onboard camera car comes home in third position. Looking further down through the field, it looks as though Stephen Lindsay is going to come through and claim the honours in the invitation class, but very hard fought. All of the class victories were. Darren Luke claims the honours overall from Steve Burgess in second place and Darren Hanley third. Rachel Davis, Mark Boot and Stephen Lindsay complete the top six. So familiar territory for Darren Luke, the top step of the podium, his 11th victory of the season.
Darren, talk us through that race. It seems you had a lot of pace early on and very little late on in the race.
Yeah, not really because there was any problem. It was just the driver slacked off, because I actually thought Colin Miller was in second place. And I could see him on the other side of the circuit as I was coming down this side, and I thought, well, that far ahead, I might as well just wind it in now. And then, of course, I saw Steve come out of nowhere. I thought, what's going on? Has he been really in second place, or has he just spun and coming back on? And then I realised, yeah, he was in second place. I saw his guys go in second, 2 laps to go. And I thought, bloody hell, I best pull my finger back out again. Of course, I'd lost my train of thought. So I was all over the shop, but just enough to hang on. So, yeah, reasonably pleased with that.
So the storm clouds beginning to gather over Brands Hatch, and a wetter second race about to get underway with Darren Luke and Steve Burgess on the front row of the grid. A great start from the outside of the front row of the grid from Steve Burgess. Also a very good start from the man from the inside of the third row of the grid. That's Mark Boot. He's up from 5th to 3rd by the time they get towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. You can see the spray being thrown up into the visors of those drivers behind, and that will certainly cause a few of them just to tread gingerly in the early stages. Not Steve Burgess, however. Around the outside of Darren Luke, he has gone to try and take the lead of the race. He's all on the grass, however, on the exit of Druids Corner, and he's going to drop down through the field. He's going to lose a further position to the red car. That's Rachel Davis, the 20-year-old from Evesham. Seen her out racing a Radical SR4 in previous seasons, but she's been going very well this year at the SR3 that's at her disposal this weekend. Down through the Cooper Straight up towards Surtees. There goes car number 6. That's Nigel Place. He sits there in the Pro Sport class at the moment as we ride on board with Ray Woolhead in his first season of motor racing. He's got a Radical SR3 at his disposal that sits there in the Super Sports class. Over the start-finish line he goes. You can see just how tricky visibility is in some cases. Of course, as soon as you get closer to the car ahead, that's when the visibility disappears. No such problems for race leader, however, Darren Luke. Clear visor for him. However, Darren Hanley behind will be watching his mirrors. He's got cars queuing up to get through and past him. They've also got back markers to contend with as well. On board with Ray Woolhead, David Franklin to our right-hand side, moving neatly out of the way as the quicker cars go through and put a lap on him. It's Stephen Lindsay that's directly ahead of us. There's a problem there by the look of things. That was Ian Charles's car in the middle of the circuit, and hand aloft for Darren Luke. I think he's probably seen that the safety car is out on the circuit. Indeed it is. The car of Ian Charles slap bang in the middle of the circuit. You can see frontal damage to that car as well, which I'm sure will be recovered out of the way, as will, by the look of things, car number 1, the reigning champion, Colin Miller, who was battling away at the very top of the championship standings with Darren Luke coming into this weekend. And a non-finish for him is not a good thing at all. We can see the marshals on hand. The recovery of the car of Ian Charles is already commencing, as Colin Miller's car is being pushed by our marshals with itself trying to fire itself into life. It doesn't want to start at all, and the man from Ballymena in Northern Ireland will be very disappointed indeed. Safety car pulls off. We're about to go racing once more. Accelerating towards the start-finish line goes Darren Luke, already a race winner so far this weekend, looking for his second victory if he can. Third and fourth place being disputed quite vigorously as well. Mark Boot, who we ride on board with now, has Steve Burgess dive up the inside as they head in towards Paddock Hill Bend. Burgess is through and has taken that third position away. Up the hill towards Druids they go. You can see how tight it is. Steve Burgess slithering the car up to the braking point at Druids Corner, hangs on to it as the tail end tried to break away. There's Mark Boot in fourth position with Rachel Davis in that red car sitting there in fifth place. And further down through the field, diving up the inside, that's Chris Hillaby. He should have started on pole position for the first of the races. He's carving his way through the field, and problems off and making contact, albeit light contact by the look of things in the barriers, is Mark Boots there. There is Ray Woolhead, our sole remaining camera car, with Richard Carver sitting directly behind him as over the start-finish line to complete a further lap comes Darren Luke. Darren Anley in that yellow car now under pressure from Steve Burgess, who sits there in third place and is very keen to gain ground if he can. Onto the brakes and through Paddock Hill Bend go that duo, fighting over second and third places respectively, both of them in the Super Sports class, both of them driving Radical SR3s, as Burgess again up the inside, locks the rear brakes, spins the car through 180 degrees. He was late on the brakes on the previous lap, he was just too late this time. He's now of course got to wait for the whole of the field to feed its way through before he can rotate the car in the right direction. We ride on board with Ray Woolhead again. It's the former motorcycle racer Richard Carver that will carves across the nose by the look of things of Ray Woolhead, as getting very sideways coming out of Graham Hill Bend. The car directly ahead of us now, that's James Abbott, and Ray Woolhead will try and sneak through if he can, but the youngster, the youngest man in the field, just 16 years of age from Bourne, son of co-founder of Radical Sports Cars Phil Abbott, going well in these difficult conditions. James Abbott over the start-finish line go the leaders. Here is car number 24 once more. That is Chris Hillaby. As we say, he should have started on the front row of the grid for race one, but following problems on the warm-up lap, he didn't even manage to make the start. That therefore meant he started from the very rear of the field for race two, and he's making very good progress at the moment. Up the inside of Nigel Place, he dives on the approach to Druids Corner. Another former motorcycle racer is Chris Hillaby, and certainly in his first season of car racing, he's going very well indeed. Used to see him out in the Honda CBR 600 Championship and in the Yamaha R1 Series. Richard Carver gets the power on just a bit too early coming out of Graham Hill Bend. There's brief contact as well with another car that tried to get out of the way. Damage to the tail end of Richard Carver's car may possibly spell retirement. Here is Steve Burgess, who is trying to recover from that spin, and we can have a look at the replay of exactly what happened to Mark Boot. Into Graham Hill Bend, the power on just a little bit too early. The car spins back onto the inside of the circuit and makes light contact with the barriers. Sadly for Mark Boot, that spells retirement and the end of his race. Well, the progress of Chris Hillaby still continuing as well. He's now caught up to the tail end of Craig Curry, but spins the car also coming out of Graham Hill Bend. From the very rear of the field, Chris Hillaby had done brilliant things. He'd got himself up into fourth position. If he can start the engine and get going, he should be able to continue in the race. But he really had fought his way up through the order. Here's a battle further down through the field as well. Rachel Davis fending off the attentions of Nigel Place, who gets the Pro Sport class car up the inside and ahead of the Radical SR3. They've got to be careful because they've got Stephen Lindsay not that far behind them. There is number 33, that's Craig Curry. Let's have a look at exactly what happened to Richard Carver ahead. The car spins, there's contact with James Abbott, and just about avoiding both of them is our camera car in the hands of Ray Woolhead. So Rachel Davis under pressure once more. This time it's Stephen Lindsay, the man from Tenby in South Wales, that manages to sneak through. He's running in the invitation class this weekend, Stephen Lindsay, and we've seen some good results from him in the early parts of the season. But Darren Luke is the man that once more heads the field as he makes his way up towards Clearways Corner and on towards Clark Curve. The 38-year-old from Droitwich, the 2008 Bike Sports champion, is propelling his Radical Pro Sport towards the start-finish line on completion of yet another lap. You can see the gap between himself and Darren Anley is comfortable enough so as to not worry the man who is looking to try and claim this championship this season, the Quaife Radical Club Cup. We've got a good fight going on as well. Rachel Davis in danger of losing another position, squeezing Ray Woolhead onto the grass, but Woolhead, the man from Home Firth, trying to sneak his way through up the inside very late on the brakes. Good driving that from, well, a relative novice. Only started car racing this year, did Ray Woolhead, but has been going very well all season. Through past one of the Club Sport class cars they go. And up towards the braking area for Druids Corner. As our race leader Darren Luke heads up towards Clearways for the final time, it looks as though it's going to be another double victory for him this weekend at Brands Hatch in the Quaife Radical Club Cup. On towards Clark Curve he comes, and the man from Droitwich is surely going to leave Brands Hatch in the lead of the championship. He claims his second victory of the weekend. Darren Hanley comes through in second place. This is Craig Curry who sits there in third position. We've seen him out in the Dunlop Sport Max Production Cup. We ride on board once more with Ray Woolhead. He is destined for a top 6 finish. A good result that for the man from Yorkshire. And Chris Hillaby, who fought his way through the order, had that spin, is ultimately going to finish in 4th position. A fabulous result from the very rear of the field. So Darren Luke it is that claims the honours here in the second of the races at Brands Hatch. From Darren Hanley in second place, Craig Curry in third, and Chris Hillaby from the rear of the grid is in 4th. So Darren Luke, Darren Hanley and Craig Curry sit there on the podium. Let's hear it from third place, Craig Curry.
The Radical is, it's got wets on and it's got grip, but it's still so slippery down into that left-hander. Just hard work, but you know, keep smooth. And I thought, let everyone else make a mistake. I think Chris Hillaby catching me, and I thought I'll put a fast one in, see how he can live with it. And I watched him spin off, so I smiled to myself there.
A slight surprising class win for you then. A very difficult race for you, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't realise that David had stalled on the grid, and I'd gone past him. I couldn't even see in the spray. I obviously caught him up on the next lap round. I thought he was in front of me, so I chased him all the way round, but didn't catch him. And I thought it was a second, or even a third. But I don't know what happened to Stephen Lindsay then, who's in my class as well. He must have gone off somewhere or disappeared. So yeah, I'll take that. Thank you very much.
So as we leave Brands Hatch, it's Darren Luke in the Pro Sport class that leads the championship overall. In the Super Sports class, Colin Miller. In the Club Sport class, Andy Harwood takes the championship lead. And in the Invitation class, we're tied on points between David Franklin and Stephen Lindsay.